He's the great George Brett, and Kansas State Royals Hall of Famer. Was their hitting coach for a little while and then decided that might be too much work, and he went back upstairs, and joins us now. Hi, George. How are you?
Dan, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. The work that goes into being a hitting coach, more than you thought?
Well, yeah, because they have all these new stadiums, and all these new stadiums have indoor batting cages. So you get to the ballpark about 1:30 in the afternoon, and everybody has their little routines, everybody has their little drills, and then you want to incorporate some of your own little drills, and you spend about 2 o'clock, 2:30 on till about 4 o'clock on the road because you have early hitting. Some days on the road starts at 4. And then after that, guys want to go back down while the other team's taking batting practice. And then right before the game, guys want to go in there and take some extra batting practice. But I don't think that was the reason why I decided to go back to my old life. I just thought it was time for me to do it. It was an interim job when I took it. The Royals were really, really, really struggling, and we hired a guy that was new in the organization. He really didn't know anybody, and I just thought it would be good to kind of be there with him for a couple months and let him get to know everybody. And after being around Pedro Grifol for 2 months, everybody was going to him. They weren't coming to me. They were going to him. So I was a glorified ball picker, upper, and batting practice pitcher. That's what I did.
But, George, I'm looking at guys now. Nobody's ashamed if you strike out 150 times.
No, and you know what? I mentioned that to him. Before, I used to tell people I used to hate to strike out. I would do anything in my power not to strike out. And these guys, I mean, it was striking out, and it's not just the Royals. It's everybody. If they strike out, they strike out, and it's no big deal. Just don't look bad striking out. And that's just the way the game is now. You get guys striking out 100 times, and it's nothing to them. And I always said, hey, if we could cut those strikeouts down in half, and you're hitting 260, and now let's say you get another 50 at-bats where you put the ball in play, you can end up hitting 285, 290. And I know what a guy hitting 260 makes, and I know what a guy hitting 300 makes. Don't you want to make that someday down the line? Don't you want to help your team win more ball games somewhere down the line? And it's just an accepted part of the game right now, striking out. And but back when I played, I mean, if you struck out 100 times a year, you hit 210, 215, and hit 35 home runs. But nowadays, you're hitting 260 with 10 home runs, still striking out 100 times.
Yeah, you were embarrassed if you struck out 100. I think the most you ever struck out was maybe a little less than 80. I don't think you.
Well, that was my last year. One year, Dan, I remember I had more home runs than strikeouts. I think I had 22 strikeouts and 24 home runs or something. And that to me is being a good productive hitter.
Well, that was 80 that you did.
Was that 1980?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you hit 390 that year, too.
Well, that was one of those years. I only played 117 games, which made it a little bit easier to hit 390 over 150 games. I think 155 games would even be tougher, but I ended up tore ligaments in my ankle sliding into second base in Cleveland and missed about 8 weeks there, and just had a couple nagging injuries that kept me out of the lineup for 2 or 3 days here and there.
But I wonder if I don't think 400's possible now because guys don't put the ball in play. Yeah, I mean, we do have those guys.
Well, Ichiro 1 year, what did he have, 230 hits or 240 hits?
Yeah.
And didn't hit it.
Well, he doesn't walk enough. Yeah.
He doesn't walk. Yeah, you got to walk, too.
Yeah,
and you know what's fun to do sometimes is just go around and look at walks to strikeouts each guy, and there isn't a guy in the major leagues that has less walks than strikeouts now.
Well, I'm looking at UC.
I think back in the 70s and the 80s, I think there were a lot of them.
Well, UC Puig is a guy.
Tony Gwynn's and guys like that. I don't think they struck out more than they walked.
Well, I'm looking at these guys now. Yasiel Puig's a great player, but I need him to walk more. I think that'll make him even more dangerous. But a lot of these guys just get up there, they sit on a fastball. Everybody's programmed to hit a fastball now, and I think they just sit there and wait, and then they swing. I got 3 good rips in there. All right, I'll get you next time.
Well, I think the key is what you're trying to do with that fastball. If you're trying to hit a home run with that fastball, you're going to strike out. But if you're trying to hit it hard somewhere, you're probably not going to strike out. If you're trying to pull everything, you're probably going to strike out more. But if you're trying to hit the ball where it's pitched, you're not going to strike out more. And I was the latter in both of those cases. I never tried to hit home runs. I just tried to hit the ball hard, not far. Same as in golf. I see you playing golf on your set once in a while, and if you go up there and you start swinging as hard as you can, or you go play in your member guest tournament, or you go play at your country club and they have an event going on and they have a long drive, the long drive guy is the guy that doesn't try to win it. The long drive guy is the guy that just tries to put it in play, and his arms and body and everything work simultaneously through the ball. But when you start swinging 100 miles an hour or as hard as you can, and you put 100% effort into something, your body's not going to work well together. It's going to be all out of sync somewhere. And you might win the long drive contest, but you'll win it 2 fairways over.
He's the Hall of Famer George Brett joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Cooperstown inducting 3 members posthumously this weekend. I'm curious if you is there a punishment that you feel fits the crime with Ryan Braun? And then, if we know what is true about A-Rod, can we hand out lifetime bans anymore, or void contracts?
That's a great question. I don't know if they can. I think the first one should be 50, and I think the next one is a lifetime. That's my opinion. Dan, I'll never forget. You remember the cover of Lyle Alzado on when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated?
Yeah.
And he had a bandana around his head, and he died about 3 weeks after that. And he went into complete detail of steroid use and what it's done to his body. And I remember seeing that article, and not that I was a big weightlifter anyways, which I'm not. I've never lifted weights in my life. But nowadays we have strength and conditioning coaches, and they have all the powders and stuff that you mix to build muscle mass. They're all approved by Major League Baseball, and they have strength and conditioning coaches, and they go in there and they work their tails off. And that stuff seems to do a pretty good job. Why would anybody want to possibly turn out like Lyle Alzado? I think it was a great article. Unfortunately, he did it, and unfortunately, it took his life. But just to see that, they should put that in every locker room, that whole article and the picture of Lyle Alzado.
But how would you feel if
that was brutal, what steroids did to him.
How would you feel if one of your players, you found out one of your players was using?
And I was still playing?
No, now you're in, with the Royals.
Now I'm in Cooperstown and say Mike Schmidt?
No, but if you're affiliated with the Royals.
Right.
But let's say you found out somebody on the Royals was using right now. How would you feel?
I would be very disappointed in him.
But would you say something?
Yes, I would say something. If he was on that list, the biogenesis list, I guess, and I would say, what are you thinking about? What are you doing? But
these guys are making money, George.
Ryan Braun just lost $3.4 million.
He's going to still have $100 million.
A-Rod might lose it all, supposedly.
Nah, he'll still get some. But Braun's going to get $100 million. He's going to come back.
Yeah.
It pays to cheat. You have to say, all right, I don't care about my legacy, or I don't have a conscience, but I can still make. It's like Wall Street. You can make money here. Cheat.
Yeah.
That's the sad part. They're getting away.
You could, if you really needed to make that money, you probably have a better inkling to do it. But if you have total confidence in your abilities and you want to do it the right way, you can get just as strong. I don't know what that stuff does, Dan. I heard every day is like opening day. You're never tired. You're never sore. You're strong. You feel good. I think if you take care of yourself, you feel the same way.
You never were tempted?
I never was, no. We had a workout room the last 3 years, a weight room. The last 3 years I played in Kansas City, I didn't even know where it was.
Well, I didn't
even know where it was.
I've seen your body before.
One day. I was looking for somebody one day, and I go, "Where's he at?" The workout room. The weight room. I go, "Where's the weight room?"
Bonds or Rose, if you had the deciding vote for the Hall of Fame?
Rose.
I just want him on the ballot, George. That's all.
Yeah.
Just put him on the ballot. Let the writers decide. And he's 70, and what he did as a baseball, I still. Who stained the game more, Rose, or these guys using PEDs?
I think the PED guys did.
Because they changed the game. They changed everything about it.
They changed when you go to the Hall of Fame and you look at Mike Schmidt stats and you look at Harmon Killebrew stats and you look at some of the big Hank Aaron stats, and then you all of a sudden, if you weren't a baseball fan back then, and you go, well, why isn't Barry Bonds in there? He's got more home runs than all these guys. It's crazy. And some of the other guys whose names are going to come up. for the history of the game and the numbers that people have been able to put up back in the 60s and the 70s, and you go back to the 30s and the 40s even, and now the numbers are just, some of them, there was a period there where the numbers were just ridiculous. and you put in these guys are bigger and stronger, and you put in all these smaller ballparks that people are playing in now. Baltimore, Philadelphia, and all these places. These things are bandboxes. They are bandboxes compared to other stadiums, which everybody else used to play in. People come to Kansas City and they hit a ball to the warning track, and they're going, "Man, that's a home run." Anywhere else, I mean, it's crazy. It really is crazy. All these new stadiums that they built.
30th anniversary of the Pine Tar game last week. Did you celebrate?
I'm sorry?
Did you celebrate?
I didn't celebrate. No, I was working that day. I was hitting coach for the Royals, and I understand it got a lot of play on television, and some of the guys in the team, a lot of the guys in our team weren't even born yet, so they were asking a lot of questions.
What do you have from that game?
There was no reason to celebrate. I'm sorry?
What do you have from that game that you kept?
I have nothing. Not one thing. The bat is in Cooperstown. I have no idea who has the ball. Some fan has the ball in New York or sold it to whoever.
Yeah.
Uniform, I have no clue where that is. I was never, Dan, you go back to 1983, there wasn't a lot of memorabilia back then. You didn't save a lot of stuff. You save your first hat, your first base hit ball. You save maybe a glove or something. I don't know. I really don't have a lot of things from my career that I saved over the years because I was never in the memorabilia business. Never really was into that stuff.
If you could have one item.
If I could have one item, probably the Pine Tar bat. But I think that belongs in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
I think that does. The one thing that I wished I wouldn't have done, I wished I wouldn't have used the bat again, because what happened is when I got the bat back, Emory Air Freight shipped it to me. And it turned out to be a good deal because I got a good contract with Emory. I got to do a commercial for them, and they paid me six figures to do it, so it was great. So there was some financial rewards from the Pine Tar game. But I did a commercial, and when they shipped the bat back to me in Detroit, I took all the Pine Tar off down to 18 inches, and I drew a line. And I was using that bat. And Gaylord Perry, who was a memorabilia guy, loved to keep memorabilia and get stuff signed and things for collections and for trading and selling and things like that. Gaylord said, "George, that bat's worth a lot of money right now, but it's not worth anything broken. If I was you, I wouldn't use it anymore." And so then I took it out of play. But I wished I would have kept it in its original state with the Pine Tar all the way up past the 18 inches. In fact, I have one at my house right now that I gave to Mike Boddicker in 1993, my last year. He wanted a game-used bat, so I gave him one. And this has Pine Tar up to about 24 inches. It is thick. I mean, it is the neatest. It's my most prized possession I have right now is this game-used bat I used in 1993 that I traded Mike Schmidt, an autographed bat from the Hall of Fame. Every year I go back to the Hall of Fame. This year I didn't because I retired from my job on a Friday, and the Hall of Fame started Friday just this past weekend, and so I didn't go. But every year we go, they put a bunch of bats out, and everybody signs a bat, and then you get to do with that bat whatever you want to.
Yeah.
And I usually give them to charity, one a year to charity. I don't save all these things. Well, I had two of these bats laying around, and I'm sitting there playing in my office with this Pine Tar bat, and it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And Mike's going, "God, you really like that bat?" He said, "Don't you?" And I go, "God, Mike, I just haven't seen one like this forever." And he said, "Keep it." And I go, "I can't keep it. I gave it to you." And sure enough, I looked over and I saw one of those bats with about 60 Hall of Fame signatures on it. And I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll keep it, but I want you to have one of these." And so I traded them for him. So he got 60 Hall of Famers, and I got my game-used bat with no signature on it.
Hey, it's great to hear from you. And
you too.
Thanks for joining.
How did you celebrate your birthday this year?
Pretty low key. When you get up there where we are.
Where are you now? How old are you?
57.
Yeah, I just turned 60.
Oh, I know.
For the listeners, I don't know if they remember that you and I have the same birthday.
Yeah.
So I had a good. My wife threw me a good surprise 60th birthday party. A lot of people flew in for it. It was a lot of fun. So when you turn 60, have your wife invite me to your surprise party.
It won't be a surprise though.
Well, don't do it on your birthday, and it will be.
If you show up with a pine tar bat, that would be nice too. I can put it in the man cave here.
If I get invited to your surprise 60th, and it won't be on May 15th, I promise you that. That's why it'll be a surprise. I will definitely bring it.
Hey, good to visit with you, George. Thank you, buddy. All right.
Okay, pal.
George Brett, Royals Hall of Famer. Certainly interesting.